To order the October meeting of the Fargo Park District. Moving on to letter B, approval of the order of the agenda. Are there any changes to be made?
No changes to the agenda.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Well, that would be a second. I think.
Yep. It's been moved and seconded to approve the order of the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Jeff, please pull the board.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Deutsch.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to the regular agenda, number 1, recognition of the audience, public comments. Is there anybody in the attendance that would like to speak today to? Okay. Just give me 1 second real quick, please. So at this time, the board will hear comments from the public. We ask that each speaker who has signed up to address the board come up to the microphone and state their name and address for the record. We'd also ask that speakers refrain from using this forum to criticize or complain about a specific employee by name. The board is interested in your comments and will listen carefully, but is not obligated to respond or to debate the issues in the forum. Should you desire a written response to a specific question, you may request it. This evening, each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. As a point of order, if any speaker wishes to talk later in the agenda, comments are limited only to the agenda item at hand, and speakers must first be recognized by not only the park board president, but before coming up to the microphone. Otherwise, the speaker may be ruled out of order and additional measures may be taken up to include removal from the meeting. I don't see that happening. The Fargo Park board president, however, does not have to engage in dialogue with the additional speakers. We ask that you respect this. And if you could come up to the podium and give us your name and address, we'd really appreciate it. And you can share your comments with us.
Is this working? Okay.
It's good.
My name's Todd Olson. My address is 944 76th Avenue South. It's just in the neighborhood of Orchard Glen Park. I've lived out there close to 30 years. When we moved out there was a beautiful apple orchard. I've even personally gone on record with the media praising what a nice area it was. As time has gone on, I have witnessed several trees being removed, not for safety, not for widening of a road. Basically, they were removed for, in my opinion, something to do. I figured, well, they'll replace those trees. Those trees were replaced by 3 telephone poles with bat boxes on them, I guess. I have never, anywhere I've ever been, I've seen telephone poles in a park. It's very unsightly for a nice apple orchard to have 3 telephone poles, and then now we are several birdhouses, I guess, have replaced the trees that have been cut down. It's great that the Park District has planted apple trees out in the area, but I think in the future there's going to be a lot more trees removed and buildings put in place of them. There's an awful lot of man-made things that are being brought in, which is, I don't really understand what the objective is of the Park District, to mow everything, spray everything, and then on the other end of Forest River Park. They took out 50 trees, established large trees that I figured, well, okay, they're going to come in with more trees, nice trees, groups of trees, park benches, picnic tables for families. It's pretty sad as far as it just the trees that are North Dakota doesn't have that many trees to start with, and all these trees were removed. And I figured that trees would be replaced in that area. And a bunch of sticks were planted. Again, everything was sprayed and or mowed. And that I think is, again, sad that all this effort to just remove trees and put in man-made objects that really don't enhance the area, don't have any beauty to them at all. Then now we've been informed that there's going to be a joining of the bike paths in the area. A lot of money, grant has been okayed.
Todd, I don't mean to cut you off. I appreciate your comments, but could you reach out to our staff again? And I know we had a meeting out there recently. We had to keep
Yeah,
the
we had
comments
a
to 2 minutes.
meeting. It was very upsetting to me because again, we're getting these man-made objects,
Yep.
and now we're going from a porta potty to a vault toilet.
Okay. Well, can you reach out to Dave Beets again, please, and we'll try to get another meeting together so that you can discuss this further with him.
So I'm
Well, as I said, with the public comment portion was 3 minutes, and I'm not trying to dismiss your concerns,
no problem.
but
no
I
problem.
just, and we empathize with your concerns, but we just want to do it at an appropriate time with our staff. So if that meeting didn't resolve some of these things, then we'll be happy to get our staff together and meet with you to discuss them further.
All
Sounds
right,
good?
I've expressed I live out in that area, and
Yep.
I think it's being destroyed.
We appreciate you taking the time to come in. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, moving on to item number 2, Director's Report.
Good evening, Commissioners. I have a few updates, and I think Mr. Beets does as well. So first off, we have our employee benefit fair on October 18th at Cornerstone Arena. Our HR team does a really nice job of trying to make that benefits fair engaging for employees. We have some fun games and different things that the employees can do, so they're not just coming in, picking up their packet. There'll be vendors there answering questions that employees have. So that's from 9 to 3:30 on the 18th. I also just wanted to remind everyone that in October, all of our season pass holders at our golf courses are able to golf and use any of the golf courses. So if anyone wants to get in the last few rounds, you can do that while we are still open. And then just wanted to remind folks that we are currently conducting a survey of our golf courses for this summer that's open to the public. So everyone can fill out a survey. The deadline for that is on October 15th. We're really hopeful that we get a lot of good feedback that helps us make changes, makes improvements for the future. And that's all that I have.
We probably don't have a date of when the courses will close yet, right? Probably make that decision later.
Later, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think,
Hopefully by our next meeting, they'll still be open, right?
But
That would be
that's
great.
part of the thought process behind the season pass at one place being good everywhere. It's like now when it's appropriate and time to close one, we don't have to. It's kind of like the season passes with the pool. Like
Yeah.
if the one in your backyard happens to close,
Yep.
unfortunately, we feel bad about that, but you are welcome to go to the other pools that are still open
Yeah.
at that point.
Still an option.
yeah, and I think each course will be evaluated and we'll be staggering those closing times just based on course conditions and what we're seeing for total number of rounds.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, just a little bit of news from the operations side of the organization. Tony's crew and park maintenance in the Parks Department are busy at work, starting to winterize all of our irrigation systems, so both on our athletic complexes and our smaller systems. As the calendar turns to October, we know what that means, and so we're getting ahead of that. It's a lengthy process, takes about a little over a month to get through all of our complexes and golf courses and things of that nature. We're also starting to winterize some of our smaller buildings in the park, so the public will start to see that we'll soon not have restroom facilities available where maybe they did before. And as long as the weather's good there, we'll make sure there's still access to portable toilets and things of that nature for that. A little bit of activity at through the recreation department, and again with facilities, and Tony's crew and Kevin's crew are involved with this, but we're starting to get our ice arenas up and running. So middle of September, we had the Armstrong rink was installed, and that's ready to go. We'll start this week, actually, I believe on Thursday or Friday, start with the ice process at the Fowler rink out there. And then quickly after that, we'll jump to the sports center, or excuse me, I think Coliseum's next, and then sports center, or sports arena is next. I've been training my brain to stay sports center, obviously. So that's a little bit of activity there with our ice rinks. We'll get those up and rolling. And then Kelly and Courts Plus wanted me to mention and make you aware of, there was a powerlifting competition this past weekend at Courts Plus with over 100 participants. So they were pretty proud of that event. They're also hosting a couple of big events in the next couple of weeks. The EDC Boys, North Dakota Boys Tennis Tournament will be held there from October 5th through the 7th. And then the following week, the Minnesota 8A Girls Tournament will be held there from the 12th through the 14th.
Thank you.
Can I give you one from out of the blue? What's the sports arena status? How's the remodeling coming along?
It is complete. We're just, I guess complete is a relative term, but it's as complete as we'll get. We'll finalize the punch list this week. And so I think if you've seen the correspondence in the weekly overview, there were some pictures included in there 2 or 3 weeks ago. I know we stopped there on our tour for those that were available. But if you get a chance, stop in there. It's really something nice. It looks like we revitalized that facility. Not only the exterior roof is new, but the underlayment, the lights are new. It got a fresh coat of paint. It really brightened that space up.
Yeah, the pictures look great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Moving on to number 3, the Arts Partnership presentation. Tanya Blanche is our Executive Director presenter from the Arts Partnership. Welcome.
Is this on? And this is not on yet. Okay. Thanks for inviting me. I'm Tanya Blanich. You were close, but and I've worked for the Arts Partnership for about 7 years, but I was recently named the executive director. And it is, I think, important that people understand the breadth of the work we do, because I think when people think about the Arts Partnership, they might know one thing and not another. So this is a great opportunity for us to talk about what we do. So we're your local arts council. That's the simplest possible thing to understand. And we serve the Tri-Cities, and we represent all forms of art, whether that's visual, performance, jewelry making, etc. We don't discriminate against art forms. If you don't know what an arts council is, I actually put these in the wrong order, I think. An arts council can be either a government agency, or it can be a standalone nonprofit, which is what the Arts Partnership is. It is basically there to support artists and arts organizations. And an underlying goal is just to ensure that artistic expression and creativity can thrive in the area that the Arts Council represents. So just so you know, there are state arts councils, there are regional arts councils, and city arts councils. And I wouldn't exactly call the National Endowment for the Arts and Arts Council, but it's kind of the, you know, the granddaddy. Our mission is pretty broad, cultivating community through the arts. It means that we understand that the arts can build community, that they can connect people, that they serve as points in common, and they're a way for all of us to understand each other. We have 3 core values. I will say that we're actually going to be adding a 4th, I think, very soon, which will talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. But right now, we support local art and the artists who make it. We advocate for the arts role in a vibrant economy, and we promote a creatively enriched community. And absolutely everything we do fits under at least one of those core values. And I just want to talk a little bit about the role in a vibrant economy. We participated in, well, we kind of led the metro area's response to the Americans for the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study number 6. That feels like a mouthful. It's a national study that looks at the impact of the arts on our economy, whether that's from the arts organization's point of view, and it is nonprofit versus like a Jade Presents, and from the audience point of view. And we will be getting both the results of the national study and the local study in next week on the 12th. So hopefully the week after that, we'll be starting to do some media around that. I think I would behoove all of you who are very community related, you know, integrated. You're here on the Parks Board, for example, because I think you care about our community, but to truly understand what the arts bring. You know, I get paid to participate in the arts. I own a house, I pay taxes. So all of these things, and believe me, this weekend is Studio Crawl. If you don't know about that, it's a really great event, Saturday and Sunday, where you can go visit artist studios. And I know 5 years or 6 years ago when we did this same study, I talked to people from the Twin Cities, from Dickinson, who had come specifically for that. They spent money in our hotels, they spent money in restaurants, etc. Sorry, got a little bit on a soapbox there. So we're called the Arts Partnership for a reason, and that's because we have partners. They are nonprofit arts organizations, artists, and arts-related businesses. The support system is really a two-way street. So we support partners with grants, resources, etc. But we hear from them. They're kind of the boots on the ground. So they let us know what's working, what's not in the community. And while we do partner with other entities, I really do believe that the best role we can play is like an arts matchmaker. So you need an artist to do a mural in the Parks Department, contact us. We'll either help you with a call for artists, or we'll say, you know, you should talk to so-and-so. I've always enjoyed that my entire career. I love to put people together. It is just a great thing to be able to make the arts work, especially when you're dealing with entities that might not be arts related. So I know Carolyn from a long time. And, you know, I think we have partnered, well, I know we have partnered with the parks on occasion. But I'd really, really love to be doing a little bit more of that. We rent in one of your buildings, so it feels like we should be a little more in touch. I'm going to take you through very quickly some of our programs and activities. And I want to just point out that because we're basically an umbrella arts organization, but there are plenty of nonprofit arts organizations that do great work in this town. So we try never to replicate what they are doing. You know, we don't want to put on an opera because we don't know how to do that. So we want to support the opera, but let's not take that on. So one of the things we do is to provide artist studios. I think when, you know, the Spirit Room had to lose their artist studios, it was a big loss in the community for people who needed affordable spaces. 19 artist studios at West Acres. It doesn't solve all the problems, but it solves some of the problems. We have a program called Community Supported Art, which I think you probably all know what community supported agriculture is. You buy a share and you get produce. This buys you 3 parties where you get take-home art, a performance, and great food by local chefs. And it's a way that we can introduce artists to people who might not know them, and introduce artists to the potential purchasers of their work. So it's a fun program. We still have shares if anybody wants some. Artworks is a program that we do that places rotating art exhibits in the public realm. And I said that very specifically. We don't do public art, but we place art in restaurants, in universities, at the airport. And again, that's a way for, we pay artists a stipend to participate. There are very few galleries in town. Again, I'll say, you know, we've got 2 art museums and the Spirit Room, and there isn't a lot of other place where people can exhibit art. So this is one way that people can get their art out there. I would add that without trying, we've sold something like, because we don't take a commission and we don't process anything, I think we've sold something like $30,000 worth of art in 3.5 years, which is, for not trying to do it, is pretty darn good. And all that money went directly to the artists. The other big thing we do is to communicate about the arts. And I see that as a flip side of advocacy. People need to understand what the arts bring to a community. And so we write a forum article every Monday, a feature article that looks at the arts, and we do a lot of social media too as well. The biggest thing we do as an arts council, and it's what most arts councils are known for, is to give grants and other financial resources to organizations, individuals. And in our case, besides arts organizations, we have a fairly new program that's giving grants to health and human services organizations to incorporate the arts in their mission-driven work. And that is really impactful, and it is probably reaching, it certainly is reaching underserved audiences, and probably in a more direct way. I was trying to think of the way to say that, in a more direct way than many of our arts organizations are able to. So we give a quarter of our budget, and the Parks Department has applied in the past. I would like to encourage them to do that, but I will also say that we're rethinking a little bit our grant programs to make sure that they're as effective and efficient as possible and impactful. With the City Arts Partnership grants, that is funded by the Tri-Cities, and so we're very aware that that's taxpayer money, and we want to make sure that we're spending it well on their behalf. What's next for the Arts Partnership? This is a year where we're going to kind of look inward a bit. Part of that is our own transition from a longtime executive director, but there are 7 groups, including the Arts Partnership, who have either recently transitioned, going through transitions, haven't quite yet transitioned from longtime executive directors. And with all of that change, we want to be a really stabilizing force. I will also say that post-pandemic, as we all have, we've just been thinking a little differently about what we do and how we do it and why we do it and whether we're doing it as well as possible. So we're really going to take this deep look at our programs and processes, and just to make sure that we are absolutely serving everybody that we can in our community. There are a lot of underserved people. I think the Parks knows that probably better than most. So, and then how to support the arts in our community. So this is a call for you all. Go support a local event. Go to an opening. I'm not picking on the Spirit Room. I'm trying to tout it. Go to an arts opening there. Go to Studio Crawl this weekend. That's like just the most fun. It's going to be a nice weekend. If you didn't go to the symphony, was it 2 weekends ago, you missed, like, I don't know if I ever need to go again, because it was like the best concert ever. Get outside your comfort zone. You think you don't understand visual arts? Yeah, you do. You just have to look at it and be open to it. Buy art from local artists, and I guess I kind of should have said, go listen to musicians, go listen to, or go watch a dance performance. And I'd say go volunteer and donate to whatever kind of arts entity hits your fancy. So that's all. Did I do that in 10 minutes?
Close enough.
Thanks. Are there any questions?
I think maybe, how big is the staff?
We're tiny. I'm only 5'5".
I
I think Christina and Lana are about that also.
That falls under the comedian side, right? So
Yeah.
The
That's the local artist
the
right
performing arts, yeah.
So we are a mighty staff of 2 full-time people. We have a part-time freelancer who does our communications work, and we have a very, very part-time person who helps with calendaring and things like that. We're just going to see how things go. But I have some thoughts. I didn't want to say it in front of Aaron. He sits on our board. Didn't want to do a spoiler alert before our board meeting. But yeah, we're a tiny staff. But I think we get things done. And what we can't do, we try to give you, if you come to us and we can't quite help you, we try very hard to connect you to somebody who can.
Anya, how are you funded?
So about a third of our funding comes from state and local government. We get grants from local foundations, corporate and private, and we get donations from individuals. So those are roughly a third each, kind of. And we do have, and then another third, which would make 4 thirds.
That's good math.
Yeah, thank you. We do get money.
Finance director, are you?
Yeah. We do get money from our programs. So we get paid to do artworks. So businesses pay to have that service, and the community supported art costs, something to participate. So there is some of that. So maybe it's not evenly quartered, but that kind of gives you a sense.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Well, thank you I was going to mention that I'm on the board as well, just to make sure, full disclosure, but I
The
think,
board gets a lot taller when Aaron gets
yeah,
on
yeah.
there.
Yeah. He
least
he changes the average.
Yeah, the average height. But I think, we've talked about on our end at the Park District, especially with the sports center, on kind of making sure, the investment we're making is not, obviously it's going to be geared towards sports, but there's a lot of opportunities for art programming and different classes and things. And I think that's going to be critical. And even some of our master plans, Yunker Farm, Island Park, some of these things, I think we kind of keep hearing feedback that how do we get art more involved, local art specifically, if we can. And so I thank you for coming today. And,
Sure.
and I think, we need to make sure that it's not all sports on what we're doing in the community.
Here, here.
Well, and your enthusiasm is catchy. So,
Thank you.
yes.
It's a great job to spend your days in the arts. Thank you.
Thank you,
Tanya.
Tanya. All right, moving on to number 4, board to consider and approve awarding of sale of the general obligation bonds series 2023A for phase 2 of the Fargo Parks Sports Center. Brock Leitz is up.
Brock, you going to
present.
be as much fun as Tanya was?
Yeah.
Not a chance. Might depend who you ask.
Tony?
Score check.
Just checking a score.
All right.
Same.
Mr. President, members of the commission, we've got a number of items that we'll be going through today, and just housekeeping before I forget. If each of the next 3 agenda items are successfully approved by the board, I will need President Deutsch and Clerk Gunkelman to get signatures before you leave, so please don't leave until I gather those on all the documents. First item here in front of you, agenda item number 4, is the sale of the general obligation bond series 2023A. As we discussed at the facilities committee meeting, the bond sale was today at 10 a.m. And we knew that these documents would be coming out throughout the day. And I just handed out to you the actual bond resolution hot off the press at 5:28 right before our meeting. So I also, prior to the meeting, put a packet in front of you, and it's more the summary that I'll walk through. There's 3 different pieces. The top one is sources and uses of funds. And I think these 3 pages will be the summary of what we want to cover today. As you are aware, you had approved a resolution to go out to competitive sale for up to $34 million in bonds, general obligation bonds. As a result of the next agenda item, we were able to take that down to $31.2 million. So if we start with the, result of sale should be on the top. Sorry, that's my bad. The result of sale, we had 5 bidders today that bid on the bonds that we had out for sale. You see the names of those 5 bidders in front of you. The top page was the low bidder in JP Morgan Securities. So it would be our recommendation that we would award $31.2 million in general obligation bonds to JP Morgan Securities. The true interest rate on that over 20 years is 4.41%. They did provide which we'll cover shortly, there was a premium that was paid that they provided, and they also reduced the costs of issue. I think as a result of seeing what the rates are out there. The rate ranged from the successful low bidder of 4.41 to the high bidder of 4.64%. And in the current rate environment, I think that's the best that we could have hoped for. And you always like to have more competition for these, but the current environment right now with lending and quite frankly, the small number of bonds that are out on the market right now. There just is not a lot of people that are issuing this kind of debt at the current moment. So we feel as good as we can at this time with that rate, and there will be an opportunity for us to continue to monitor these through time. And if the opportunity presents itself to refinance, we would do that when they're first callable. In 8 years, they would be callable. So we will just continue to monitor that. So that's the result of the sale itself. The next page I have there in the handout I had given you before the meeting is the sources and use of funds. So we were able, because of their reduction in cost of issuance, we were able to reduce the par value amount to $30,415,000, but that still nets us
$31,200,000. And then you see the cost of issuance in working with our financial advisor, our underwriter's discount, which is where they really reduced the, JP Morgan reduced their cost of the issuance of the bond. And then we just have some additional incremental costs that are associated with this. So in total, it's $31,344,397.55. We will receive a deposit of $31,200,000 for that bond. The last page is a single page item, which is the actual general obligation bond itself that just shows you the maturity dates, what the coupon rate is, and just the breakout of the total from JP Morgan Securities. The actual document that I provided you just before I started is the resolution itself, and the resolution, as Jeff Gunkelman knows, carries a lot of legalese about who the issuer is, what the terms are, when the sale was held, things of that nature. And this will require, if approved, our signatures that we will then pass on to the other parties, JP Morgan specifically, for their signature, and then set a closing date to award the bonds. As you recall, the current budget in 2023, we did increase the that we're operating under right now. We did increase the debt service fund to accommodate this payment. So there is not a need to do any of that in the budget that we will discuss later in the meeting. These funds have already been accounted for and are being collected to make these payments on an annual basis. With that, I will stand for any questions that you might have specific to this bond issue 2023A.
Your personal feelings, opinion that you had going into the day? What I mean, just pure curiosity. What was your initial reaction when you said this was our best number?
Thank you, President Deutsch. You know, I was hopeful we could get under 4% with the volatility in the market. There haven't been a lot of recent sales. Those that we've seen were just under 4%. We have a great bond rating. We're a very favorable credit. I think it's very safe paper for people to buy. But the rates have gone up recently again. So, you know, right now a 30-year fixed home mortgage is 6.5%. The Fed rate is 5.5%. So the fact that we came in at 4.41 may have been a little higher than I had hoped, but it certainly is still historically a good 20-year fixed rate. The problem is we have recency bias. And so we realized that we were hoping to get these at a better rate. But in the current environment right now, I think it's favorable. And I was encouraged by the fact that JP Morgan lowered their cost of issuance, understanding that the rate was maybe, 10 to 25 basis points higher than maybe it would have been a week ago. But then 2 weeks ago, who knows? So, yeah, you're always disappointed because you always want it for the best rate possible, but it is what it is, and we're fully prepared to handle the debt and service it accordingly.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk to people who were kind of around in the 80s and some of those years where interest rates were 18 to 21%, and you know, for some of those people, it's like, wow, you know, 4% or 4.41.
Right.
You know, but as you said, now we've kind of the last couple of years with the rates as low as they were, it's interesting. But yeah, and you feel like you said it was five companies, like potentially, were you thinking more would bid on it, or?
So when we issued the debt, about 18 months ago on phase one, we had 10 active bidders at that time. We had 5 today. You know, I think obviously we weren't dealing with a single bid, which is always good. So you want to get multiple bids for comparative purposes. I'm aware and sensitive to the volatility of the market, and to lock up 20-year money, even though we're a very secure credit, you just don't know what's going to happen out there. And so I understand people potentially being concerned about that. Banks are very interested in deposits right now. And so this is on the other end of the spectrum from them. So JP Morgan will be looking to increase deposits as a result, because clearly they're taking risk on one end. So, Yeah, 5 is a respectable number, but certainly, like I said, 18 months ago, we had 10, but the market was different 18 months ago.
So I'll make a motion to approve the award of the sale of the general obligation bond, Series 2023A for Phase 2 of the sports complex to JP Morgan Securities LLC as outlined in the results of sale document.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to do as Jerry just said. Is there any discussion? Dunkelman, you got that, right? We're approving the bonds as presented. Any discussion? Jeff, please pull the board.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rosted.
Yes.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Deutsch.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Brock. You're up again.
All
Board to
right.
consider for approval the issuance of the North Dakota infrastructure loan for Phase 2 of the Fargo Park Sports Center.
All right, thank you, Mr. President and members of the commission. This is the second part of the funding formula that we have set into place for Phase 2 of the Fargo Sports Center. Just in point of review, as you recall, the 2023 Legislative Assembly opened up the Bank of North Dakota Infrastructure Loan Fund to park districts in this last session with an emergency clause of April 11th of 2023. So any infrastructure needs that qualified under the loan that were paid after April 11th would qualify for this loan fund. We went to work with our partners and looked at the bids that were awarded for Phase 2 of the Fargo Park Sports Center, and we identified $2.8 million of infrastructure that would qualify for this loan. This loan is at 2% interest, and so it behooves us to make sure to capture that and be good stewards of taxpayer funds as we look to take advantage of those of those rates. This combined with the resolution you just passed gives us the $34 million that we committed to previously in funding Phase 2 of this project. And so you do have the resolution. This was prepared ahead of time. It's in your board packet. And this will be a loan through the Bank of North Dakota that we will secure the funds as of November 1st. It's all part of what was levied for and collected in order to pay this debt and service this debt accordingly. And so we feel very good about securing that. And it's new for the park districts and for park districts in general. This is something that was not available to park districts. In a bigger picture, maybe anticipating the question that President Deutsch had earlier, if you really look at total cost of issuance of the debt that the park district has taken on for the Fargo Park Sports Complex, we issued the first 20-year bond at 2.77%. We just approved a bond issued at 4.41%. This portion of the loan is at 2%. And so the aggregate percentage of the total debt that we've got out there is still very favorable long-term. And I think that we can take great pride in that we've been able to capture debt at the right time in this regard. So with that, I'll stand for any questions that you may have as it relates to the North Dakota infrastructure loan for Phase 2 of the Fargo Park Sports Center.
Could you just do a quick rundown on how I'm supposed to read this?
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
I'm not following the logic.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Rosted. So the other piece I gave you was a colored piece in front of you. This is the summation of the loan. And so basically the loan amount is $2.8 million. The rate is 2%. This is the amortization schedule in which we will start making payments. So we will have our first payment. Typically, you make bond payments twice a year. You make them in May and November. So this just tracks down. We'll receive the funds on 11/1 of 23. Our first payment will be 5/1 of 24. You see how that payment breaks down from a principal and interest perspective, and then how it gets to the bottom. It's just an amortization schedule that we will follow.
Like line
for the
2,
loan.
the November 1st, it shows a payment of $26,000 and an interest rate of, is that?
November 1st of 24.
Or-
Yep. And so what happens is you kind of have your bulk of your principal is paid in the first payment, and then you have the accrued interest in the second payment. And that's similar with this particular loan. And I think it's because of the rate, right? And the favorable rate that the state is giving you. So they're taking the interest on the front end to reduce the volume of the loan so that they're still accruing interest, but they're accruing it on a smaller amount each year because of you're paying the interest on the front end, or excuse me, the principal on the front end.
That's what I wasn't seeing.
Yep, sorry about that.
I like those interest numbers the last few years over the first few years.
You and me both.
But either way, I think this is a nice option that we didn't have before. And maybe for those who aren't aware, Brock, could you kind of explain, obviously infrastructure, what does infrastructure mean? So what exactly are what will we be using this for?
Yep, thank you, Commissioner Hill. So the loan itself, they very clearly define what they consider infrastructure. So parking lots, for example, are considered infrastructure. Anything underground that we, in this case, would need to connect phase 2 to phase 1. So any electrical, water, any of those types of things. Hardscapes, which are sidewalks. So the sidewalk from the parking lot to the front of the building is considered infrastructure because you need to be able to get to the building in a safe manner. And so those are the types of things that we'll be using. So there's a number of underground pieces that we'll be putting in. Bricks and mortar are not infrastructure. So it's all the things that would be standard infrastructure to be allowed to service the building and make it operational, as well as parking lots are considered infrastructure for this type of commercial type property.
Thank you. Well, with that, I'll make a motion to, let's just say, no, I suppose you have it. I make a motion to approve now I'm on the general obligation bond, all right.
It's on the screen too.
Thank you.
Yep.
It is, okay. I make a motion to approve the general obligation park facilities bond series 2023 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the general obligation park facilities bond series 2023 as presented. Is there any discussion? Any discussion?
Is that the right motion?
Yeah, I was going to say that doesn't seem
So,
right.
yep, and so it is. And so thank
Okay,
you.
that's why I was confused. I was
understand-
like, didn't we just do this is
Yeah.
not a.
So I
general
understand this is
obligation bond.
confusing.
Okay.
So even though it's a loan, the way the state processes this, because we are issuing general obligation debt, which we did in 2023A, for the 34 million, this is the subsequent piece of that $34 million debt. So it's still a bond resolution from the bank. And the bond attorney from both the Bank of North Dakota and John Shockley for the Park District put that together. So thank you for asking that. I should have clarified that. When I filled it out, it felt like a grant application. The approval is a bond resolution and it's really a loan. So it's
Yeah, that's right. I
how
was
that works.
expecting it to be a loan.
But yes, it is in fact a bond resolution 2023 that then corresponds to 2023A for the total of 34 million. And the reason for that is the source of repayment is the same. So they have to tie together.
And it does say it in the last meatiest paragraph, I should say, the BND loan. So it's listed there too. So hopefully it all matches up.
Any further discussion?
It's confusing and it's the first one I've ever done as well. So.
All
I'm
right,
glad I
Jeff-
looked up and Dave was looking at it going, what? I don't
Yeah,
know. So
I know.
I'm not alone.
Jeff, please pull the board.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Deutsch.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Brock. Brock, you're up again, my man. Number 6, board to consider for approval the 2024 annual budget.
All right, thank you, Mr. President, members of the commission. Included in your packet is the final budget for 2024. We have had, as you know, various budget meetings throughout the year. We passed our preliminary budget at the August meeting, and statutorily, we have to take action and submit for final certification to the county by October 10th, our final budget for 2024. There have been very minimal changes in line items since we approved the preliminary budget, and the bottom line of the overall budget has remained unchanged since preliminary approval. Some of the changes that we needed to make in working with departments, there were some modifications between line items that we had to adjust, some for operational purposes of the new sports center, some for hiring and opportunities here with existing projects. But again, we held the bottom line of the budget flat. Things that are included in this budget, just in summary, that we've discussed in the past, we did see a 12% increase in valuations throughout the city from the city assessor's office. And so you see that there is an increase in tax revenue based on increased valuation that has happened throughout the city of Fargo. Embedded from a debt or from a expense standpoint, we do have a 5% increase, pool of 5% increase for salaries for staff at the Fargo Park District. We've seen an increase in expenses related to employee benefits near 20%. We do have operational costs for the Fargo Park Sports Center now embedded into this budget. And so there are increased operational costs as we consider taking on new facilities going forward into 2024. All of that being said, I think it's important to note this page that you see on the screen right here. We have presented this budget to you with a 1.3 mil decrease, so reducing the tax rate as it pertains to the Fargo Park District portion of the tax bill. So although, and that's a result of growth. We are capturing growth, and that growth helps us to continue to operate and service the debt that we have in front of us while still reducing the tax rate. And I think if you look at kind of the monumental changes that are happening throughout the Park District with the project at Island Park Pool and the new Fargo Park Sports Complex and the staff that we have to bring on to make sure that we're operating that effectively and the increased costs that we have in operations, and to do those types of things while still maintaining all of the existing facilities and footprint that we have while reducing the tax rate to the taxpayer, I think you need to be commended for that. I understand that the feedback that we got recently, we take that into account about the overall tax bill, and we can empathize with that. I believe that as a park district, we're doing the best we can to try to reduce that burden as much as possible. And as you are aware, we are not involved in setting the valuation and the growth. Some of that is just pure growth of the city, and some of that is valuation increases by what's happening to the properties. So I think that's of particular note that we've been able to do that in 2024 with a reduction. If we look at the budget as a whole, our general fund budget this year, when you consider tax revenue, revenue from programs and services, as well as our state aid, our general fund budget is $34,137,423. Our debt service budget, so what you just approved in the debt that we issued and the debt that we issued previously, make up the majority of our debt. But we do have some other bonds out there outstanding, and we levy for that purely to service our debt. Those are sinking in interest levies. So as valuations increase and the principal and interest gets paid down, the levy goes down automatically because we can only levy the amount of dollars. And so our debt service for 2024 is $10,169,246. And then our Valley Senior Services budget is $7,207,519. And so our total budget, all sources, including general fund, which is how we basically run the day-to-day operations of the district, debt service, which we use for capital projects, Valley Senior Services is $51,514,188, all encompassing of all that we do throughout the Park District. In that package, you will see a breakdown by department. We've tried to work very hard as we build budgets to meet with departments on the front end, also meet with them throughout the process to make sure that if there's adjustments that need to be made, that we're making them with their feedback. And so you see the breakdown of each department in that packet as well. And with that, I guess I would stand for any questions you might have as it pertains to the final proposed 2024 budget for the Park District.
Well, I'll just say good job. I think that the staff should be commended for the hard work it did to bring the budget in where it's at. And so there's been a lot of news stories about the budgets locally here. And so I think the Park District's done a nice job, particularly with the sports center that we've committed to as well. So good work.
Yeah, I would just reiterate what Jerry just said, and you said we should be commended for this budget. We aren't to be commended for this budget. Our directors and or our staff within those entities are the ones who, sharpened their pencils per se and figured out a way to make it all work. And I just wanted to clarify, I know you said it, and I just want to clarify it by itself out there that, we have a 1.2 mil reduction, but also, we captured the growth. And as you said, the growth is obviously increased valuation of houses, but it's also growth of the actual city. So when a new neighborhood comes in, we got to put in a playground. We got to put in, lighting. We got to, we have to. With the new houses come the same obligation we have to service them as we do the entire city. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
As the city grows, we grow, right? I mean,
100%.
we grow with it. So I agree. Thank you. So with that, I guess I'll make the motion to approve the 2024 budget as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2024 Fargo Park District annual budget as presented. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Jeff, please pull the board.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Deutsch.
Aye, motion carries. Entertain a motion to adjourn. If there's any other discussion.
So moved.